Her phone buzzed against the glass table for the third time in 1 minute. Maya Johnson stared at the screen without picking it up. A lender. Then her CFO. Then a text from her mother that just said, "You okay, baby?" Across the ballroom, the Walters family stood in a tight circle like they owned the air itself. Bright lights hit their diamonds like camera flashes. People laughed too loudly around them, like laughter was a ticket you had to pay for. Maya's hand tightened around a cold champagne flute she did not want. Her palm was sweating, but her face stayed calm. She had worked too hard to learn that skill. Then the matriarch, Eleanor Walters, stepped forward, looked Maya up and down, and said it loud enough for the nearest tables to hear. "Sweetheart, you're impressive, but you're not a fit for us." The words landed like a door slamming in a quiet room. Maya's throat went dry. Her tongue stuck to the roof of her mouth. She could feel dozens of eyes trying to act like they were not staring. And that was the moment she realized the $1 billion deal was already poison. She placed the flute down very gently, like it might break. Then she turned, walked toward the exit, and did not look back. The gala was in downtown Chicago, in a hotel ballroom that smelled like expensive perfume and roasted meat. Maya had been there for 2 hours and had spoken to at least 30 people, all smiling, all saying her name like it tasted new. Maya Johnson. Right. Johnson Biosystems. They said it like they were doing her a favor by remembering. Maya kept her shoulders relaxed and her chin level. Her dress was black and simple, the kind her stylist said looked powerful without trying too hard. It cost more than Maya's first car. She still felt like she was borrowing someone else's life when she wore it. She excused herself from another conversation and walked toward the bar just to breathe. She did not drink much. She liked control. Tonight was not about fun. Tonight was about a contract that would keep her company alive. Johnson Biosystems was not a tech fantasy. There were no flashy apps. No buzzwords. It was lab work and supply chains and hospital procurement departments that moved like traffic in the rain. Maya's company made a medical testing component that cut the waiting time for certain results. It helped real people. It was also expensive to scale. 3 months ago, she had sat in her office at 2 a.m. with her shoes off and her hair twisted into a tired bun, reading an email from their biggest buyer. "We are reducing orders next quarter. Budget restraints." Maya remembered the feeling like she remembered the smell of smoke after a stove fire. It did not go away quickly. It lived in her body. After that email, everything got tighter. Investor calls became colder. Vendors stopped offering friendly payment terms. Her CFO, Kevin, started saying things like, "We need to consider layoffs," as if he was talking about weather and not people with rent and kids and pride. Maya had not slept right since. That morning, before the gala, she had stood in her condo kitchen staring at her coffee like it was going to give her instructions. It was from Starbucks, but it had gone lukewarm because she kept checking her phone. Her calendar was full of meetings and follow-ups and a single block labeled, "Walters Gala, 7 p.m. She had put the cup down and pressed her fingers against her forehead. In the window, she could see her own reflection, a woman who looked strong to strangers and tired to herself. Her assistant had texted, "Car is downstairs," and Maya had replied with a thumbs-up emoji because that was easier than saying, "I feel like I'm holding my breath with my whole life." Now, in the ballroom, the Walters family was the center of gravity. Everyone orbited them with careful smiles, waiting for permission to feel important. They were old money, and they wore it like a cent. Their company had been around for generations. They invested in health, finance, energy. They were known for deals that changed industries. They were also known for taking control. Maya had heard the stories. She had also heard the warnings. They don't partner, one investor told her. They acquire. Even when they say they won't. Maya had nodded and said, "I can protect my company." But she had said it the way people say, "I'll be fine," when they are not sure. The deal on the table was huge. $1 billion partnership promise over 10 years, with immediate funding to expand production and get their testing component into more hospitals. It would stabilize everything. It would save jobs. It would make her mother breathe easier when she called and asked, "Are you eating?" in that worried tone she had used since Maya was a kid. But the deal also came with a quiet fear. Because sometimes money did not just solve problems. Sometimes it bought new ones. Maya's phone buzzed again in her clutch. She glanced at it and saw Kevin's name. She didn't answer. She could picture him at home, tie loosened, laptop open on his kitchen table, running numbers like prayer beads. She took a breath and walked toward the Walters circle because waiting made her feel smaller. Eleanor Walters stood near the center. White hair swept back like she had never been winded by anything. Her smile was controlled. Next to her was her son, Grant, tall and polished, the kind of man who called people by their last names because it kept distance. A few other family members stood with them, all expensive watch bands and casual confidence. Maya approached with her hand ready, smile ready, posture ready. "Ms. Walters," she said. "Thank you for inviting me. I'm Maya Johnson." Eleanor looked at her like she was reading fine print. "Yes," she said. "Maya. We've heard good things." Maya shook hands with Grant. His grip was firm but quick. His eyes did not stay on her face for long. It was a small thing. Maya noticed it anyway. They made small talk about the event, about the city, about innovation in healthcare. Maya answered cleanly, confidently, like she had practiced. She mentioned patient outcomes. She mentioned reliability. She did not mention that her company's lab manager had cried in the break room last week because she was afraid of losing her job. When the conversation shifted toward business, Maya felt her body lock in. This was the part she could do. She could speak about her company with clarity because it was real. She had built it with long nights and hard choices and mistakes she still carried. "We're not asking to be rescued," Maya said carefully. "We're asking to scale a proven solution." Grant nodded. Eleanor's face stayed smooth. Then Eleanor tilted her head slightly. "Of course," she said, as if Maya had made a sweet little request. "But we have standards. Reputation. Fit." Maya held her smile. "Fit is important," she said. "I agree." Eleanor's eyes swept Maya's dress, her hair, her face, then returned to Maya's eyes with a look that felt like a test. "Sweetheart," Eleanor said, her voice still light, "you're impressive, but you're not a fit for us." The word sweetheart hit Maya like a hand on her shoulder, pushing her back. Not loud, not dramatic. Just enough to make her stumble inside herself. The air around them changed. Conversations nearby softened. People pretended to look away while still listening. Maya could feel it, the way a room notices when someone is being put in their place. Maya's heart started beating too fast, but her face stayed calm because she had trained it to. She had learned young that some people would decide what she was before she opened her mouth. A thought flashed through her, sharp and unwanted. They never planned to respect you. They planned to use you. She wanted to speak. She wanted to ask, "What does fit mean?" She wanted to say, "My numbers are real. My product saves time. My team works like their lives depend on it." But another part of her, the part that had been surviving for years, whispered, "Don't beg in a room built to watch you beg." Maya's hand went numb around the champagne flute. It was cold against her skin. She set it down with care and felt the tiny clink like a signal. She looked at Eleanor. Her voice came out quiet, steady. "I understand," Maya said. Eleanor nodded as if Maya had done the polite thing. Maya turned away and started walking toward the exit. Each step felt normal from the outside. From the inside, it felt like walking through thick water. Her phone buzzed again. She did not check it. She kept walking. Behind her, the Walters circle tightened back into itself, already moving on. Maya reached the hallway outside the ballroom, where the air was cooler and smelled like carpet cleaner. She stopped near a framed photo of the skyline and finally let her face change. Not a collapse. Just a crack. Her throat burned. She swallowed hard. She pressed her palm against her stomach like she could hold herself together with a hand. $1 billion. A lifeline. And also a leash. She thought about her staff. About Kevin's worried eyes. About her mother's text. About the early mornings when she stood in the lab and told her team, "We matter," even when she wasn't sure anyone believed it. She pulled out her phone and looked at the missed calls. Kevin, 3 times. A voicemail from an unknown number. And a new text from a number she didn't recognize. It was one line. Do not sign with them. Call me. I can explain. Maya stared at it, heart thudding, because it felt like the first real thing that had happened all night. And she didn't know yet if it was a warning, a trap, or a tiny chance to finally choose herself. Maya didn't call the number right away. She walked out of the hotel, past the doorman who smiled without recognizing her, and into the cold Chicago night. The city felt indifferent in the way cities always do. Cars moved. A bus hissed to a stop. Someone laughed too loud across the street. Her driver stood near the curb scrolling on his phone. Heading home? He asked. Yes, Maya said, then paused. Actually, no. Can you take me to Lakeview instead? The driver nodded and opened the door. Maya slid into the back seat and finally let herself exhale. Her shoulders dropped an inch. Her hands trembled just enough that she noticed. As the car pulled away, she stared out the window at the blur of lights. Her phone sat heavy in her lap. That text replayed in her mind. Do not sign with them. Call me. She had learned to be careful. Too many people smelled desperation like blood in water. Too many helpers appeared when money was involved. Still, the message didn't feel flashy. It didn't promise anything. It felt plain. The car stopped at a red light. Maya looked down and pressed call. It rang twice. Hello. A man's voice. Calm. A little tired. This is Maya Johnson, she said. You texted me. There was a short pause. Thank you for calling, he said. I wasn't sure you would. Who is this? Maya asked. My name is Daniel Reed, he said. I used to work for the Walters family. On the legal side. Used to was a word Maya noticed immediately. Why are you contacting me? She asked. Because I've watched them do this before, Daniel said. They bring founders close. They make them feel seen. Then they corner them into giving up control or walking away broke. Maya closed her eyes briefly. Her pulse slowed just a bit. They already walked away, she said. Tonight. Daniel let out a breath. I'm not surprised. The car moved again. Maya watched a couple cross the street holding hands, arguing softly about something that looked small and important. What do you want from me? Maya asked. Nothing, Daniel said. I don't work for them anymore. I left last year. Why? Maya asked. Another pause. Longer this time. Because I got tired of helping powerful people pretend they were fair, he said. Maya felt something shift. Not hope. Not trust. Just attention. They talked for 10 minutes. About contracts. About leverage. About how the Walters family used language like partnership while building exit clauses that crushed smaller companies. Daniel didn't sound angry. He sounded relieved, to be honest. By the time the car stopped in front of Maya's building, she felt steadier than she had an hour ago. Not saved. Just less alone. Thank you, she said before hanging up. For telling me. Whatever you decide, Daniel said, don't decide it because you're scared. That sentence stayed with her. Up in her condo, Maya kicked off her heels and stood barefoot on the cool floor. The silence pressed in. She dropped her clutch on the counter and leaned forward, hands braced, breathing slow. Her phone buzzed again. Kevin. She called him back. Hey, he said immediately. I was starting to worry. I'm okay, Maya said. It wasn't fully true, but it wasn't a lie either. The deal's off. There was silence on the line. Then, what happened? They said we weren't a fit, Maya said. She kept her voice neutral. She wasn't ready to explain everything yet. And honestly, Kevin, I think they did us a favor. Kevin sighed. Maya, our numbers. I know, she said. I know exactly where we stand. She sat down at the kitchen table, the same spot where she had stared at her coffee that morning. Everything felt different now, like the room had been rearranged slightly. I need a few days, she continued. No panic decisions. No signing anything just to survive another quarter. Kevin was quiet, then said, Okay. I trust you. That mattered more than he probably realized. After the call, Maya heated leftovers she barely tasted. She showered and let the water run too long, watching it hit the tile like it could rinse the night off her skin. Later, wrapped in an old sweatshirt, she scrolled through her contacts and stopped on a name she hadn't called in months. Renee. They had met years ago at a small business conference in Detroit, back when Maya's company fit into 2 rooms and a borrowed lab. Renee ran a logistics firm. They had bonded over bad coffee and shared exhaustion. Maya hesitated, then sent a text. Long time. Are you free to talk this week? The reply came almost immediately. Always for you. What's going on? Maya smiled, just a little. The next morning, instead of going straight to the office, Maya walked to a small coffee shop near her building. It wasn't trendy. The tables wobbled. The barista remembered regulars' orders. She ordered black coffee and sat by the window, notebook open but blank. For the first time in weeks, she let herself think without chasing solutions. She noticed how tired she was. How much of her identity had wrapped itself around holding everything together. A woman at the next table struggled with a stroller, apologizing out loud even though no one was bothered. Maya stood and helped without thinking. Thank you, the woman said, relief in her voice. No problem, Maya replied. It was nothing. And it was something. Back at her office later that day, Maya gathered her leadership team. She didn't pretend things were easy. She didn't dress the truth up. We're under pressure, she said. But we're not selling ourselves short to survive. We'll find another way. Some faces looked scared. Some looked relieved. One engineer nodded slowly, like he had been waiting to hear that. After the meeting, Maya sat alone and replayed Eleanor Walters' voice in her head. You're not a fit for us. For the first time, Maya answered it silently. Maybe you're not a fit for me either. That night, lying in bed, Maya stared at the ceiling and felt the familiar pull of doubt. Fear didn't disappear just because you named it. It came back. It always did. But underneath it now was something else. A small, stubborn sense that walking away had not been a failure. It had been a boundary. And boundaries, she was starting to understand, were not walls. They were doors you chose when to open. The pressure didn't explode all at once. It seeped in. 3 weeks passed, and nothing dramatic happened. No savior investor. No sudden turnaround. Just emails that took longer to answer and meetings that ended with phrases like let's circle back and we'll keep watching the space. Maya learned that uncertainty had a sound. It was the quiet hum of her laptop late at night. It was the pause before Kevin spoke in meetings. It was the way people avoided eye contact when budgets came up. One Tuesday afternoon, she sat in her office staring at a spreadsheet she had memorized. Red numbers didn't scare her anymore. What scared her was how normal they had become. Her phone buzzed. A calendar reminder. Performance review check-ins. She closed her eyes. Maya prided herself on being present for her team. She listened. She remembered names. She asked about kids and parents and weekend plans. But lately, she felt like she was acting the part of a leader instead of being one. The first meeting was with Leah, their operations manager. Leah sat across from her, hands folded, posture careful. I know things are tight, Leah said before Maya could speak. I just want to know where we're headed. Maya searched for the right answer and came up empty. She told the truth instead. I don't know yet, she said. But I won't lie to you. Leah nodded slowly. That helps more than you think. After Leah left, Maya stared at the door long after it closed. She thought about how leadership manuals never talked about this part. The part where honesty didn't fix anything but still felt necessary. That evening, Maya drove to her mother's house in the suburbs. She hadn't planned to. She just kept going past her exit and turned around. Her mother opened the door with a soft smile that tightened when she saw Maya's face. You look tired, she said. I am, Maya replied. They sat at the kitchen table with tea that steamed quietly between them. The house smelled like lemon cleaner and old memories. On the fridge were photos from another life. Maya in a graduation cap. Maya holding her first award. Maya smiling wide like she had no idea how complicated success could get. Her mother watched her over the rim of her mug. Something happened, she said. Not a question. Maya hesitated. Then the words came out faster than she expected. The gala. The deal. The way Eleanor Walters had spoken to her like she was something that almost mattered. Her mother listened without interrupting. When Maya finished, the silence stretched. Why does it still hurt? Maya asked quietly. I know better. I know who I am. But it still got under my skin. Her mother reached across the table and rested her hand over Maya's. Because you're human, she said. And because some wounds don't heal just because you succeed. That night, Maya lay awake in her childhood bedroom staring at the ceiling fan as it spun slowly, unevenly. She thought about how much of her life had been built on proving something. That she belonged. That she was worth the room she stood in. She realized she didn't know who she was without that fight. The breaking point came 2 days later. Kevin stood in her office with a printed report in his hands. His voice was calm, but his eyes were not. If we don't secure funding in the next 60 days, he said, we'll have to make cuts. Maya nodded. How deep? Deep enough to hurt, he said. After he left, Maya locked her door and sat on the floor with her back against the wall. She didn't cry right away. She stared at the light spilling in from the window, watching dust float like it had nothing to worry about. Her thoughts turned sharp and relentless. You walked away from $1 billion. You let pride get in the way. You chose dignity over security, and now other people will pay for it. She thought about calling Daniel. About asking Renee for help. About doing anything that might take this weight off her chest. Instead, she stayed on the floor until her legs went numb. Later that night, alone in her condo, she replayed the gala again and again. Not Eleanor's words, but her own silence afterward. Why didn't you push back? Why didn't you explain? Why didn't you fight? And then another thought followed, quieter but heavier. What if fighting would have meant losing yourself? Maya went to the bathroom and looked at herself in the mirror. No makeup. Hair pulled back carelessly. The woman staring back looked tired and stubborn and scared. She remembered being younger, sitting in a conference room where no one looked like her, promising herself she would never let anyone make her feel small again. And yet, here she was, measuring her worth against people who had never intended to see her fully. Something inside her shifted. Not dramatically. Just enough. She opened her laptop and pulled up the Walters draft contract that still sat in her files like a ghost. She read it slowly, this time without imagining what it could save. She saw the control clauses. The quiet takeover points. The way her role faded on page 27. Her stomach twisted. She closed the file. Then she opened a blank document and started writing. Not a pitch. Not a plan. Just words. Why did you start this company? The answer came easier than she expected. Because waiting should not cost people their health. Because speed can be compassion. Because I wanted to build something honest. She kept writing until the fear loosened its grip. The next morning, Maya woke with a dull headache and a strange clarity. Nothing was fixed. The numbers were still the numbers. The risk was still real. But she understood something she hadn't before. She wasn't breaking because the deal was gone. She was breaking because she had been measuring success by proximity to power instead of alignment with herself. That realization didn't save the company. But it saved her from making a decision she would never forgive herself for. And sometimes, that was the line between survival and loss. The solution did not arrive with a headline. It came in pieces, spread across ordinary days. Maya stopped waiting for a single call that would fix everything. Instead, she started making smaller ones. She called Renee first. They met at a diner near the highway, the kind with cracked vinyl booths and menus that hadn't changed in years. Renee listened, stirring her coffee slowly. You don't need a giant, she said. You need partners who won't choke you. They talked about distribution gaps. About regional hospital networks. About how growth didn't always have to mean going big all at once. Sometimes it meant going steady. Renee introduced Maya to 2 mid-sized firms who weren't flashy but paid on time. One conversation led to another. No fireworks. Just interest. Questions asked without condescension. Back at the office, Maya called an all-hands meeting. I don't have miracles, she said, standing in front of the room with no slides behind her. But I do have a plan that keeps us honest. She explained the path forward. Slower expansion. Temporary salary freezes at the top, starting with herself. No layoffs yet. No promises she couldn't keep. No one clapped. But no one walked out either. After the meeting, an engineer stopped her in the hallway. "Thank you for not selling us out," he said quietly. That night, Maya sat alone on her couch eating takeout from the same Thai place she always ordered from when she was too tired to cook. Her phone buzzed. Daniel's name flashed on the screen. "I heard," he said when she answered. "About the Walters family." Maya smiled faintly. "News travels fast." "They're telling people you were difficult," Daniel said. "Uncooperative." Maya leaned back and looked at the ceiling. "That's okay." Daniel paused. "Most people don't say that." "I know," she said. "I'm learning." Weeks passed. Then months. Johnson Biosystems didn't explode into success. It stabilized. Orders increased modestly. A hospital pilot program renewed early. A small article appeared in an industry newsletter. Maya's mother framed it and put it on the fridge next to old photos. One afternoon, Maya walked past a conference room and heard laughter. Real laughter. The kind that wasn't nervous. She paused, listening, and felt something warm settle in her chest. Later that day, Kevin came into her office with a careful smile. "We're not out of the woods," he said. "But we're not falling anymore." Maya nodded. "That's enough for today." That evening, she drove home with the windows cracked, city noise rushing in. At a stoplight, she caught her reflection in the rearview mirror. She looked the same. But she wasn't. She had not won a billion-dollar deal. She had not proven anything to the people who never planned to respect her. What she had done was quieter. She had walked away from a room that demanded she shrink. She had chosen alignment over approval. Integrity over fear. People over optics. At home, Maya set her phone down and sat by the window as the city lights came on one by one. She thought about how success was often framed as arrival, as domination, as being untouchable. But real strength, she realized, looked more like staying. Staying with your values when it costs you. Staying present when certainty disappears. Staying open even after humiliation. Her phone buzzed. A text from a junior analyst on her team. "Just wanted to say, working here still matters to me." Maya typed back, "It matters to me too." She placed the phone down and let the silence settle, not heavy this time, but full. The lesson didn't come wrapped in victory. It came like this. You don't owe your dignity to anyone. And walking away can sometimes be the bravest form of leadership. The deal she refused would fade into rumor. The choice she made would stay with her. And somewhere out there, someone watching this story might recognize themselves in that moment. Standing at a door. Deciding whether to step forward or walk out.